Okay. So our final topic is China or Taiwan. What do you think is going to happen? The U.S. has been working with Japan, South Korea. It's building new military bases in the Philippines. They're sending arms to Taiwan. They are rewriting the Japanese constitution. And the defense minister is just in Japan today. So they're really trying very hard to create a coalition to fight China. So, what do you think is going to happen during the next 4 to 5 years? Will they try to recreate what happened in Ukraine and have these Asian countries fight China, or this is just another pipe dream of the military-industrial complex?
Well, first of all, it is my belief that, knowing what I know, it is my belief that there will be no war with China because we can't afford it. Simple as that. Second, we won't be able to, hypothetically, there is a war, we won't be able to defeat China because China has advantage, logistical one that is. So we're going to have to cross the oceans to get over there. China is not going to wait till we get over there, then start the fight. China will take care of business right in the middle of the ocean, whatever direction we come from. And second, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. What you will see, which, by the way, this is nothing new when it comes down to this so-called American foreign policy, because it was always based on a militarized foreign policy. That was the whole idea of it. And this is nothing new. I'm going to have to take you and your listeners back to 1950s, early 50s. Because remember, we've been engaged in so many conflicts since World War II. How many did we win? None. It was only World War II. And by the way, it wasn't the US that won World War II. It were the Russians, the Soviet Union. We took credit for it by altering history. We didn't defeat the Nazis. It was the Russians that did. So we took advantage of that and we wrote the history and became the victorious. But here is the key. I don't want your listeners to know what happened right after World War II. In the early 50s, right prior to the Korean War, a decision was made inside Washington. All we need to do is to engage in conflicts, not to win wars. And this is why when you go back in history, you think the Korean War, Vietnam, Gulf War, Gulf II, Afghanistan, now Ukraine, and soon to be South China Sea or Taiwan area.
Wow.
This is what the strategy has always been. It's because it was never about winning a war, because we couldn't win a war. Use Iraq and Afghanistan as a case in point. Even in Yemen, we couldn't defeat the Houthis. And we were conducting ops there. Those are covered operations. We couldn't defeat them. So the idea of fighting in Taiwan, it's ludicrous. We won't be able to anyway. So what that leaves us with? It leaves us with just fomenting more tensions in the region, mainly South China Sea, by wooing the likes of Australia, the likes of New Zealand, South Korea, Japan, Philippines, and you get the idea. Even surprisingly, just a few days ago, Marcos Jr. of Philippines now is advocating for diplomacy with China, which to me, it's a pivot. But I don't know whether the US is not going to let him move forward with that. Because we just signed a deal with the Philippines a few months ago about 9 bases. 9. And by the way, we only confirmed that we only did the deal consists of only 5 bases, which means what? You are left with 4 bases. What are those 4 bases for? That is usually where we're going to put weapons that the Philippines will not even know about. And that is where my concern is. Because when you look at the rhetoric coming out of Brussels regarding NATO expanding into Asia by wanting to open an office in Japan, in Tokyo, when you look at the EU signing the agreements with Japan and South Korea separately, individually, that is, when you look at Australia moving forward with the AUKUS program and so forth, and the nuclear subs and all that, that just tells you right there the idea of what the intentions for us is to foment more tensions. But as far as a conflict between the US and China, I don't see that happening. The Pentagon will have to say those kind of statements to justify the budget. That is the only reason for why you hear this kind of conversations. It's like when I read the strategic report coming from the Pentagon before it was sent to Congress. All it says, the first sentence is, Chinese Navy now outpace the US. And all that, well, yes, China built more. As a matter of fact, China by 2030 will have about 460 naval ships, far outweigh anything we could imagine. But for the Pentagon to start the report with that, it tells you it's all about budget. Because Congress will see that and say, oh, allocate billions for the Navy. That's all it was. Is there, like I said, even the policies inside the Congress are not dictated by Congress. They are dictated by lobbyists, and lobbyists for the military-industrial complex.